I think I might have just reverse engineered the greatest Halloween video to date. And by greatest, I do mean scariest, because, oh boy, this topic is a little bit loaded. Sorry I could not update the decor in time. Been a bit busy lately, obviously, but I do think having the distinct feeling that I'm going to be thrown at a bed of pikes for merely admitting to liking this show really sets the mood well. It really engenders me with the Halloween spirit. You know, I actually ended up following HAZBIN Hotel pretty late in the game. I watched the pilot, I had a decent amount of familiarity with Vivian's past work, but for the most part, my level of curiosity in this particular concept bottomed out at the question, is this bitch's name really Vaggie? But after I plowed through half the season, somewhere in episode 5, the show's appeal just clicked. I had seen the light, I have been redeemed. This is the only time that the 4-episode rule has ever done shit for anybody. I don't know dick about the lore, I don't know dick about the universe, but the characters and the storytelling techniques ultimately won me over. And also the songs, but maybe that's a no-brainer, because even people that hate this shit tip their hat off to some of them. Now, up until maybe this month, I have not publicized any interest in this show. Truth be told, it's nice to consume stuff without anyone anticipating your thoughts. There are hundreds of pieces of media that have shaped my worldview and my sense of humor that you will probably never ever hear about. I also got the sense that keeping this hush-hush was a great way of ensuring that I'd stay enjoying this show for years to come. I've ended up befriending folks that were flung balls deep into the Helliverse industrial complex, saw decent success, caught a fat bag, and then realized that they had to reel it back in because stewing in this spicy cesspool of crime and villainy was zapping any enjoyment that they got out of this thing. So why would I choose to jeopardize my relationship with it now? One, it's Halloween. I've never missed a Halloween video. I don't intend to start this year. It seemed like a quick and easy way to do it. Pragmatically speaking, this is a pretty good year for me to be a HAZBIN fan. I have had the immense privilege of screening the entire season a month early. It might be like a month exactly, sometime this week, but either way, I've had weeks to ruminate over the peak that's gonna hit you in a few weeks. And I highly doubt that I would get this particular chance in the future. Even assuming I get to screen it early again, there's no assuring that I will have a full month to absorb it by myself. There's no telling that I'd even be able to finish something like this. So I had to shoot my shot when I had the chance. On an ideological level, I did think this was kind of an interesting experiment to undertake. I have very limited experience with the fandom, the hatedom, the middom, everything else in between. The few interactions I've had with HAZBIN fans in the wild were pretty positive, and I have very limited base of knowledge as far as this universe goes. In theory, I'm not as likely to be stuck in specific biases, but either way, tasking myself with guessing what's most likely to be discussed could be a unique challenge for me. I'm not free of bias entirely, but I'm attempting to tackle this one in good faith. As silly as some of the discourse may seem, I think everything should be examined at least once. Intersectionality do kind of be a bitch, and because of our range of experiences, no one take will be completely identical to another. The sheer amount of criticism is a testament to how diverse the show's audience is, and it's not fair to take it entirely for granted. So that's why we're here. Spoilers for the season ahead, I'm sure. I do not trust myself to entirely omit all the information that has yet to be discovered, but I'm going to try my very best to obscure whatever information is not necessary for the purposes of this thing. I'm going to be going episode by episode, so if I need to issue a specific content warning or a spoiler alert or wherever, it should be easy enough to skip around. I'm only going to be using footage from the current season that's out, so that's really only the first 2 episodes. One last thing. Generally, I wanted to focus on how HAZBIN Hotel's handling of various social issues will be received, but there are overarching themes that will probably be touched on very lightly. The very vague, "I promise y'all we wrote these 3 years ago" tweets are setting people up to make very specific parallels to current geopolitical crises. For various reasons, it would be pretty difficult for me to adequately address. The series at large is about the push and pull of social power structures, class struggle, the trade-off between systemic and personal issues, as well as what it truly means to turn over a new leaf. I don't think all of its themes can be neatly addressed within 8 episodes of television, let alone one rando's YouTube video. That said, feel free to call out any glaring omissions made within this analysis, because conceivably one small detail could change the entire through line that I'm establishing here. I think that's it. That being said, let's start the video.
Oh, that didn't help, actually.
I didn't feel like I had enough to say about either of these to justify individual coverage. Since they take place on the same day, it seemed more beneficial to talk about both at once. That said, I'm pretty sure this first thing is a straight up block.
When have I ever hit him? You're obsessed with me.
The framing of it is obviously self-aware, because even evil has its low bars to clear, apparently. But it doesn't make it fun to watch, except if you were at that Broadway concert and you saw in real time how quickly the laughter died out when it came on. Personally, I think I'm mixed on the course of Angel's thread the entire season, and this feels like a weird bit of foreshadowing. Similarly, we get that one bit with Pentious at the end of Like You.
Everyone will like you, cause no one here is like you.
Is it bad that my first thought took me to the end of that really fucked up Ren and Stimpy joint? Cinematic parallels. Bro isn't even being told to kill himself anymore. He's volunteering to do it anyway. He loves his friends so much, he's gonna throw away the meal ticket of all time. Now allow me to filibuster over some details that only tangentially are related to my next point. Obviously, the scenes with Lute and her hallucinatory version of Adam are really interesting. Gravity was really well received, but I imagine people will take issue with the scenes that set it up. I think criticism could swing in two different directions, the first being the idea that this vicious killer is having self-indulgent hallucinations and that being insensitive and or reductive to folks who actually hallucinate in real life, or the idea that the way that it's handled in conjunction with the rest of her story is intriguing but a poorly done exploration of certain mental health outcomes under duress. I'm choosing to read it more as a storytelling device. I guess it's a common thread for this entire thing. It's just like an easier way of understanding how certain characters work through flashy presentation. Lute is a good example of how you might end up when you're consumed by rage and superiority and maybe a desire for closure. This particular frame started shifting my entire outlook on this character. I don't know how many fans she has, but it's hard to not feel bad for her at this point, especially that she is firmly on the losing side. Damn, Vivian. You're making me feel bad for Genesee Dales now. Is this the course of HAZBIN Hotel? This bitch lost the one person that she knew better than anyone else, and the only person as dedicated to the mission of extermination as she was. She felt like she had a job, like a real purpose, a drive, a direction. The only person that was as amenable to that reality was Adam. He was symbolic of her mission statement, right? The conservative zeal that could have easily been the downfall of heaven. At the same time, there's several layers of personal involvement there. She really bared her soul. She actually expressed her feelings. She did endure. She has lost immensely. She's barely holding on because the most unkillable entity behind the pearly gates got murked and died in her arms. I don't even think they took the body with them. They probably had to leave him down there to decay, to rot. If anything, her being left in doubt over his knowledge of her affections is like the least of her problems. Also, are these motherfuckers hoarding the crack? I'm not saying that they don't have it down in hell, but like, what the fuck? Like, how much of it do you have up there? Like, you're just willing to talk about it like so liberally? What if they're hoarding the crack? They're hoarding the coke. They're consuming the drugs of the people that live down there, and this is where our country is at.
I love to suck.
I swear to fuck if you say dicks.
I came up a bit short for this one. The only point I kind of have is vague and speculative. There's a song here about redemption. It happens to involve Angel. The progression of the track makes sense given what's happening in the episode itself, but based on what the singer is trying to accomplish, it kind of feels like there's room to interpret the sequence as being too dismissive of him as a sex worker. If you watch this episode next week and you come back to this, it probably won't make any sense, which probably means that there was nothing to complain about, so that's good.
Squirrel tails, awoo! Why am I chasing a dime? It's 10 cents.
Niffty gets a song this time. The visuals are rendered with anime-inspired designs. Halfway through, she starts singing in Japanese. I guess this could be considered exoticizing, but this show is not the first or the last show to employ such a gag. Maybe the gag will piss people off. There was that one time that people skewered that Cartoon Network show for doing the Akira bike slide. But this character has been considered Japanese by Viv since day one. Both her voice actresses speak the language. Her current VA is half Japanese on her mom's side. on an evidentiary basis, there's probably not much supporting this getting far. So I think purely the vibes may carry this like a year after release. Anticipate a tweet that's like, okay, well, now that the dust has settled, can we all agree that this was extremely racist or something like that? I don't see this gaining much traction in the long run, but maybe it'll become a well-known critique just based on how absurd it's interpreted to be. A significant roadblock in scripting was the wide information gap, not only between myself and like the general fandom, but between HAZBIN Hotel pre and post A24 pickup. There's a few details we have on each character's backstories that are often invalidated or at least clashing with the new information presented in the show so far. And because the seasons have been 8 episodes long, the drip feed of conflicting information has been, it hasn't been nourishing, to say the least. For other shows, it's easy enough to integrate footnotes and extra bits left by series creators after the fact, but for this show, you kind of need your own linear timeline to cover it all. I am aware Niffty was considered a center pre-pickup. We don't have any insight into whether that may change. However, what we do have insight into is how fed up parts of the fandom are with the few wisps of non-white representation being lightened with the fury of 1,000 lens flares. I can't really take credit for this one because it's been a pre-existing issue. Light-skin Alistair has been a point of contention for a long time. Anecdotally, as a black viewer, it's really interesting seeing viewers constantly speak to how various characters' ethnic, cultural, and racial identities are botched, often with excruciating detail. I don't have any personal criticism to offer in that regard. If anything, I would say that the show catching said criticism purely because of the choices that it makes isn't a failure in and of itself. The Deer Demon is an early 20th century mixed Creole man voiced by an Iranian man whose soul is owned by a Jewish-coded, presumably white demon lady. You can't not have this character's background be subject to any screw. You just can't. It's not realistic. That being said, it often feels like there's years of unreleased tension emanating from these folks navigating these conversations because you just have no concept or basis for why things are the way they are, right? There are plenty of characters that even over the course of the first season's production cycle have changed ethnicities, and because of pre-existing information and the identities of their actors themselves, things can change pretty quickly. And in contrast with how fast things move, there often aren't many supplementary pieces of information provided on bits related to identity or race, right? Thanks to the secret stream from 2015, we know exactly how many ass hairs Angel Dust had on him by the time he got whacked, but we don't really know why Velvet is ashy, her skin tone is ashy like that. I guess they're not gross sisters level, but it's pretty bad. So if anything, the level of frustration, it's not even stemming from a lack of answers in that regard. I don't think black viewers necessarily want everything about these characters spoon-fed to them. It's more just why though? There's no real credence given to how and why and when such decisions are made, the very few times that we have chances to examine them. On a similar note, people pointed out a while ago there were actual voodoo symbols that were utilized in the process of presenting Alistair's demon form. Don't have much insight into that. They do return here. All I would say is, if Family Guy's strongest soldier, Lily Orchard, is telling you to change some shit, maybe consider it, I don't know. She's offended by everything and yet nothing at the same time. But I think you should look into it. I don't think it's been acknowledged at all. Backing up a little bit, I'm also curious if what's discovered about Rosie and Alistair's relationship is going to ignite discussions around unsound power dynamics and shit. I think people will get a little too wrapped up in the story, though, to fully consider it. The last thing I'd mention is that we also get a glimpse into how Vox and Alistair had their falling out originally, and the way that it happened was so incredibly mean. Fuck. Mean-spirited is really overdone and dry. I don't really use it in any serious context in any of these, but someone got bullied. One of those two motherfuckers got bullied, man. There's a lot of layers to it. The whole metaphor about how bad people can really be good and good people can be bad, and the whole trade-off with that. It's really interesting stuff.
Rosewood mango candle? Kronos?
I know.
In the most genuine terms possible, I think the gift basket is the most consequential element of the entire season. I shit you not. I sincerely hope and pray that people understand what the writers are doing with this shit. It has layers. It has so many layers you don't even know. Gift basket situation is so insane. God, I really hope. I just fucking hope that people understand that one. Fuck.
Wake me up!
Wake me up
I can't wake up!
Wake me up
Save me!
Early in the episode, Peggy tries to reason with Charlie by specifically saying that she's hyperfixating on all of the demon shenanigans going on. Twitter said that you can't use that word unless you're actually an autist. Who is the autist? Is Charlie autistic? Has this been discussed before? I mean, everyone in that hotel is gay. We know that, like, for the most part. Neurodivergence, I've not heard the headcanons related to that. Maybe it's been discussed before, I don't know. So they might catch some flack for that decision. Later on in the episode, TV Man rolls up to Carmilla Carmine's place, dressed up like Carnival is going on right outside her door. Microaggressive much? A bit racist, don't you think? And the other two V's yell at him too. They're like, stop this shit. It kind of reminds me how there were certain Latinos that watched the last season. They picked up on the usage of the Spanish guitar.
For good.
Oh my gosh. Yo guys, it's me, Charlie. Hey, did that guy just turn into sand?
Now this one made me feel the most fed. Not the most concrete controversies to pick up on, but here's some nuggets. Charlie Dompler cameo in Hash Brown Motel automatically means 3 weeks of discourse about how the schmooling Franz was secretly nihilist agitprop thought up by Rick Sanchez. At one point, Charlie and Vaggie seek out Carmilla's guidance. When they're coming up to her, they're in the middle of bickering. She's like, I don't have time for whatever lesbian drama you're arguing about.
Okay, fine. You win with your gay stuff. That's what you want, right?
The walking CRT gets a Tony Hinchcliffe moment. No, I will not be elaborating. It's actually really funny. I don't want to give the joke away. Bro keeps talking about how he's gonna make all your favorite characters kill themselves because the way that he died was actually pretty embarrassing. I also do not want to elaborate on that. I'm sticking an asterisk on this because this is actually revealed in the 7th episode. But shh, don't tell nobody I just said that. The reason why this had me the most fed is because pairing this with episode 3, this episode would be the main conduit for Husk and Angel to continue their stories from the first season. Cat Keith David stumbles into a casino. He starts spiraling into old habits. Him being an alcoholic was always part of the character's DNA. I think I choose to interpret his issue as a struggle against general vice and impulse. It might feel a bit rushed, maybe a bit simplistic, but the heart-to-heart they have at the bar balances things out for me. I don't think anyone will hate the songs in this one. Songs, plural. Angels is really fucking good. Oh my god, this is I don't think I could get away with saying it's the best of the season, but it's definitely in the top 5. Oh my god. I'm so happy that you started giving him songs that were amenable to his range. I'm so glad that this character doesn't sound like Phineas Flynn's voice double anymore. Thank you. Fuck. Vaggie too, also. Her song is bars.
I know you won't believe this, but I don't understand.
I'm issuing a major spoiler alert for this one. You really don't need to know anything about this section beyond Val being given feelings. I feel like you would have a good idea of what's going to rile people up just based on that. So please skip to episode 8 or maybe the outro even. I don't know. If you got this far and you're going to tap out, thank you for coming through. But yeah, get out of here, you rascals. There's spoilers ahead. Are they gone? All right, good. I thought this one would be really boring. I was kind of looking forward to that. Then I realized that this happened, and I was thinking to myself, do I need to touch on this? But then literally as I was trying to square away this script, there's a certain tweet that landed on my goddamn timeline. So I guess we gotta talk about it. I'm gonna do an extremely quick primer for anyone who has made it this far into the video and has no clue what the fuck is going on with any of these people. HAZBIN Hotel features a pretty large recurring roster of characters, and this season focuses on 3 of them. The TV demon, his name is Vox, is the unofficial ringleader of this trio of super powerful demons that control Hell's media apparatuses. Vox controls TV, as you could guess. The influencer Lady Velvet has a foothold on the internet, and the Mothman Valentino built his empire on adult film, Prior to season 2, the one most familiar to the audience happens to be the third guy due to his relationship to the hotel's first resident, Angel Dust. Val is as monstrous a pimp as Angel Dust is as good for his business, which means very, like, one of the worst people in hell. He physically batters him, he overworks him by every standard in the book, serially forces himself on his employees. There is no way that Angel Dust is his only victim. He has a patent disregard for boundaries of any kind. He has genuinely raped people in this universe. It has happened more than once. Understandably, there are many heated conversations had over how Valentino was written and could have his portrayal improved in the writing phase. Can this painfully self-indulgent, hyper-colorful cartoon with sophomoric language be trusted to execute serious topics with its own voice in a way that does it justice? How can this content be made ethically? How many social media managers can Amazon go through before they reach one that can potentially read a room? I don't know. All reasonable questions either way. We could go on all day about the merits of exploring taboo subjects through fiction and how writing dangerous characters don't necessarily make for dangerous authors. You've heard it all before. A lot of us are probably on the same page. That being said, there's always room for improvement. That's not a knock against Viv or anyone else. That's a truism of life in general. There's always room for improvement. I don't think I'm nearly as uncomfortable with this character as many others, but I also think that pointing out the double standard, the very justified and obvious double standard, in people thinking that the rapist demon is worse than the shit-billionth murderer down there in hell, is not the most constructive way to address people's fears. And it's not making the writing any better. I'm just being honest. I'm saying all that to say that giving this character a moment to express himself, as brief as it is, might actually be the most explosive choice that they have made in this season. This is the penultimate episode. All your favorite characters get a few bars in a huge musical number about their future. Valentino and Velvet, they get a small chunk of this, maybe less than a minute. Val leads us in. You hear him rationalize how they got to this point, right? Vox has successfully pushed away these two guys that were previously known as his team. And they've known since the first episode that he didn't really give a fuck about what his scheme meant for the three of them so much as it would mean for him in specific, right? So they knew that he was going to push them away. You see the progression of that over past 7 episodes and everything. And because of these developments, despite the fact that they are very close to achieving their goals, Val is melancholy. He's kind of sad. He's so distant from his friend. He is worried about, in his own words, letting success break up the band. It's really interesting hearing him mull through those thoughts. Now, because this is the penultimate episode, it's dropping alongside the final episode of the season, so I don't think it'll overshadow things entirely, but I do expect a lot of discussion about it. I would also say compounding this particular aspect with the Course of Angels story, again, kind of wishy-washy on how it turns out. I could see people getting really impatient with the writers. Reluctantly, I would say that they might have a bit of a point here. That remains to be seen, but I think it might just be the most justifiable grievance that anybody would ever have.
Velvet is Tyra from America's Next Top Model. In that episode where she goes, "We were rooting for you! We were all rooting for you!"
I think this one actually kicked off the idea for me to do the prediction list in the first place. This small outcome seems like such a huge oversight that folks who adore this show would pick up on. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really affect anyone. I barely noticed it the first time I watched it, and I doubt that a detail like this was put in deliberately, like this is something that they poured over. But archetypally, it is the exact type of thing that you'd expect to be contentious among people who appreciate the show. During the climax, Velvet gets trounced by one of the hotel's occupants, and by the end of it, she is left almost completely bald. She walked into that shit with her braids down to hip length, and then she's thrown out the window, and she has none of it. It dovetails well off of stuff we already went through in episode 4. Velvet is not coded in this current iteration of HAZBIN Hotel. We do know based on the audition slides that she is Black woman. She's a British Black woman. She and several other characters have been examined under a magnifying glass for years by non-white viewers, identifying the pitfalls and the shortcuts taken in crafting these characters. Among other things, messing with a black woman's hair opens a very nuanced can of worms that, in context similar to this episode, underscore the way casual misogynoir creeps into pop culture. And to play devil's advocate, it's not like this character's identity is entirely unknown to the creatives. It's also not like such an issue of messing with black women's hair has never been in the cultural zeitgeist before.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it.
It seems at least a little bit careless by itself. But in the long thread of HAZBIN isn't sufficiently diverse discourse, it's just another tick on the board. It's another point to refer to that reinforces the mindset that this show is only inclusive as long as the surface tension on the water holds. Again, the fandom is very diverse, and for better or for worse, this series has often been embraced for its complex theming alone. It's difficult to say that Vivienne and the rest of the top creatives are up on every single critique thrown their way, but after ages of certain viewers expressing how they feel ignored or overlooked despite the multifaceted background that many characters have had established, this particular character being affected in this way, it has to feel like a bit of a red flag, right? There's a real trade-off that is involved with creating diverse media, you know? It's like you're not gonna get everything right. Even if you have like the super coalition, you have the Avengers of diversity on your side, you're just not going to hit all of the notes. A lot of has-been critique that I've seen, I think a lot of it just has to do with effort. People get mad when they think that there is no effort employed, when they feel like people don't give a shit about the worlds that they're crafting. Why spend years on this concept if you can't even give enough of a fuck to try and address these specific things, you know? Like, Big Mouth very much gave off the vibe that it didn't give a fuck, and that it was just here to, you know, for shock value. But when they got information wrong, when there was a particular portrayal that people called them out for, you know, they took responsibility. More or less, they corrected their wrongdoing. And I think that's where a lot of the tension comes from with HAZBIN, right? I think people can handle a lot of mistakes being made as long as they're aware that the person behind the pen is at least doing the legwork to try and correct things, right? If you have time to hop on Twitter and defend yourself from the Seth Rogen enjoyer allegations, you have time to maybe answer some questions from some disgruntled black fans of the show. I think that's the crux of it. That takes us to the end of the season. If I had to try and summarize what I think will be the top notes, definitely that stuff with Val. Maybe what they did with Velvet in the 8th episode. Maybe the Serpentious bit. Not really sure. It's all kind of a blur at this point. This video could be entirely off. There could be things that I didn't even think might be offensive that will just pop the fuck off. I have no idea. The only discourse I'm willing to piggyback off automatically is about how little they used my sweet blorblup shitto Abel. Patty Stumps has had more speaking time across 4 episodes of fucking Family Guy. And not to knock on him, because they were good episodes, but he had more speaking time in like funny, epic, cutaway gag show that he did in 1 season of Gay Demon Show. That's fucked up. I will not have this. This is unacceptable. Don't tag me in some other shit, though. I'm not going to co-sign. I did want to emphasize that despite some of the points that I made, not all of the potential issues presented are even a result of, like, them making bad choices or whatever. If anything, based on the feedback from season 1, they did fix a few things. Everyone I spoke to that got to screen it early, they feel like the pacing improved. I think I disagree. I'll update you when I'm done with the 5th rewatch. I think the Chaggy stands will be very happy. There's definitely more PDA this season. You know, the animation, the fluidity's gotten better. Out of the 20 songs presented, I think the Chaggy duet, I think it looks the best in motion. Okay, I don't even care about the ship like that, but it looks so good, dude. I couldn't really sum up all of my thoughts. I did have quite a bit of fun with it, and I felt like these points were worthy of conversation, even if they could be misconstrued. My output has been absolute dog shit this year, so you could probably tell that the last video was about dogs, and sex, and sweat, and fucking, and
Penis!
I don't know if it needed to be as long as it was, but the gist of the video was that Gendy Tartakovsky making a movie about dog balls or whatever is just as worthy of respect as Samurai Jack would be. If you can't accept him at his fixed, you don't deserve him at his Dexter's Laboratory. You can't really be a champion of art if you're willing to split hairs, right? Even saying some shit like, maybe this is kind of a waste, you probably could have been working on something else that you think is more, like, artistically meaningful. That means you're not doing it right, we can't really be stewards of artistry if you're willing to split hairs. Now, I'm biased, because I did like the movie quite a bit. But either way, I would have said this, even if it was about, like, Hands Without Labels or some bullshit. Art is a conversation, even after, like, long since an episode may have been delivered and a series might have wrapped production. People are still going to contribute. They're going to iterate on the show's existence. The audience is part of the art, and you have to be mindful about what you're putting into it when you end up consuming that stuff. But these things are never just a TV show, right? They're meaningful, you know, they have some kind of heft to them. They do influence people in ways that are kind of difficult to understand at points. Even the stupidest shit has done a lot of good. And for something like HAZBIN Hotel, maybe that point isn't communicated very well by even people that are acting as impartial examiners. Though if I did have to speak to the fandom for 1 second, just 1 second, okay? Y'all need to stand on your shit. For real. I don't understand why some fucking loser can run to your subreddit and tattle on y'all for enjoying a concert in a Broadway theater. I don't understand that. Oh, how would you know? I was there. I saw the whole thing. I was in the back of the orchestra, actually. If a squirrel broke wind, I was the first one to see it. Okay, that guy up front was kind of annoying. He did interrupt a bit that Erica and Kimiko were doing. For the most part, shit was chill. This person had a bad experience in isolation with the other people up front, and they're taking it out on everybody in that theater. And then they're lying about it, like, oh, were you raised in a barn? Do you know how to act during a Broadway show? Hey, dipshit, it's not a show, it's a concert. This person has no connection to your community and no obligation to be fair and impartial, and they used it to shit all over y'all. And y'all took it. You ran with it like you're embarrassed for each other. Don't do that. Don't do that shit.
Nobody believes in you. What are you prepared to do about it? Don't let no one come into your house, take your meal, do what you need to do today.
I don't remember what else I was going to get at. This show has brought a lot of really interesting minds together. I don't know how long we have with it. I want to enjoy my time with it as long as possible. And I would hope by the time we get to the end, the face of discourse can become a little easier to decipher. This show has enabled many people to become more adventurous, you know, to become more compassionate despite all of the Sturm und Drang online. They are cringe, but for lack of a better word, they are free. I don't think HAZBIN will ever truly be non-cringe, but I do hope that at one point it can be a fraction as free as it has made many of the audience feel in the coming years. Yeah, that's a clumsy ending, but I'm gonna roll with it. That's about it. Also, return the crack.